Speaking of things that have completely devolved, let's talk about Moms for Liberty. You know I'm right.
I have to fight you on that.
I just whenever anybody says "Moms for Liberty," I expect the statue on Liberty Island to just dive into New York Harbor and start swimming.
It should be called Moms for Illiteracy.
Yeah, right, exactly. With their wonderful policies that they like to push, like book banning.
Yeah, I like bigots for idiocy.
That too.
I would love to welcome everyone who happens to be watching right now, and thank you guys for actually coming on to the stream with us today, to put into the comments an alternative title for Moms for Liberty that makes more sense with what they do. Okay, we would invite you to come up with, we had so
Moms for Bigotry.
yeah, Moms for Bigotry. We had, Idiots for Illiteracy. We had all types of stuff. Y'all listen. I'm kind of, my brain is a little free, so I don't remember everything.
Or in the case of the former chair of the Florida chapter of Moms for Liberty, Moms for Three Ways.
Woo! See, I'm okay with that.
I am too. I am too. The only thing I am not down with is the Mom for Liberty in Florida being for the three ways, yes. Mm-hmm. But making sure none of the children learn about that, which I suppose is discretion, the soul of discretion. But it might not be the soul of wit.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, if she wants to, get her freak on, and I don't, I don't believe anybody is for teaching three ways in schools. What I really hated was the way she treated primarily homosexual students.
Right.
For being sexually degenerate, while, then going home and engaging in things that our society still considers to be sexually degenerate. And again, I don't care what you do in your bedroom as long as it's consensual. Like whips change, you have on at it. Right. Don't bring it in my bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm not opposed.
Like, unless you want to ask, do you want this in your bedroom? I probably would say yes, because
consensual.
See, as long as
that's what we you know what?
That's what we advocate
such for. An essay culture in schools right now, where boys will be boys and girls have to, if they're not, their shirts aren't buttoned up to their collar, and they're not pious and pristine, chastity, probably wearing their chastity belts, and with debutante balls and all these things. It is such a horrific. We really, really, really need to bring sex education in. And part of sex education are things like consent. What does it look like to give it, to receive it? And we're not doing that. We're just chastising people, berating them, calling them bad, and then not understanding why society isn't acting or behaving or performing a certain way.
Right.
Sorry, I'm gonna
we
gonna get off my soapbox there.
We love your soapbox and your soapbox, so and it's going to be one of those shows where there's going to be a lot of soap and boxing and all that other great stuff. But yeah, let's get into this article right here about Miss what is her name again?
Stigler.
Yeah, Stigler. I forgot about her name already. I guess I can go ahead and read just a little bit of it. So, this is a Florida school board voted on Tuesday to recommend the resignation of one of its members because she is embroiled in the fallout of sexual assault investigation into her husband, the Republican Party's state chairman. The Sarasota County Board cannot directly remove Bridget Ziegler from the panel, but voted 4-1 Tuesday for a resolution requesting that she step down. The resolution was authorized by Chair Karen Rose, who said in an email that she is shocked and deeply saddened by the allegations involving, I don't want people to get this stuff demonetized, by the
Mhm.
allegations involving Ziegler's husband, Christian Ziegler, and the couple's admissions about having a three-way sexual encounter previously with the accuser. And then we're just going to read this particular quote and then move on. I personally
Mhm.
care about Bridget and her family and deeply regret the necessity for this course of action, but given the intense media scrutiny locally and nationally, her continued presence on the board would cause irreparably, 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 that's the word, harmful distractions to our critical mission, Rose wrote. I think this is kind of like the after fact of it, you know? What do you all
Mhm.
think? Like when you all like hear about this stuff, and then I kind of want to go on to their website about what the overall organization says they stand for and all this other great stuff. But what do you all when you read something like this and you kind of know like how like Moms for Liberty rolls, and then you hear about this, what goes to your mind?
Well, in my case, I think it's very interesting how the party that's always saying, "Oh, we are all pro-life and the children is all what is important to us, and the family values," and that's especially the first one, the family values,
Yeah.
and they are the first ones to do something like this. And it was funny to me that it says there that the vote is 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
The one vote that is her, is her
Yeah.
vote.
Right.
Not.
Hey, guess what? You can vote yourself to keep on the board or not. How about that? That's so
Yeah.
nice.
To me, it's the hypocrisy.
Mm,
Again, we all, it's fun to joke and it's fun to just sort of laugh and stuff. But quite honestly, everybody gets to make their choices. This is the point of of freedom for anyone. People get to make their choices or follow their hearts when it comes to marriage, when it comes to who they love. And Moms for Liberty has staked out a position in absolute opposition to not just that, but even talking about a culture of tolerance and a culture where people can appreciate differences between one person or another on the basis of a myriad of characteristics. And they want to ban books and they want to make sure that history isn't taught adequately so that people understand where we were, where we are, and how we got here.
Mhm.
They are fundamentally anti intellectual, yet in their own lives, they do what they want. In other words, they're an organization devoted to the notion that we get to do whatever the hell we want to do, but you have to do what we tell you to do. So, it's that totalitarian aspect of their program that's very disturbing. And apparently the hypocrisy is getting noticed, which is why, oh, well, but does that matter to the people that are left? No, it just means that this person got yeeted on account of the fact that they were, doing something that the other, now they're one of them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So it just, I don't know what good it does. I mean, but the good thing, I think later on in the article, it says on Tuesday, and I think this article was like on the 8th of February, so whenever that Tuesday was that week, the local chapter in Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, the Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, shut down due to lack of interest. This is outside of
Yeah.
Florida,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and and um, and then Wednesday, the following day, the Brevard County School Board held a meeting in part to discuss a challenge to the books The Kite Runner and Slaughterhouse Five. Slaughterhouse Five, by the way, if you haven't read it, by Kurt Vonnegut, is about the fucking firebombing of Dresden, Germany. I mean, it's not. It's kind of a moral tale about war and how we pursue it, and it's critical. It's just a critical part of someone's education. Yes, that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was only one Moms for Liberty member showed up. So that's hopeful.
Yeah, I think that, another thing that we kind of just deal with, and excuse me for my kid actually like crying in the background, but but one of the things that at least that we're dealing with, that I think that in the general public, when we're looking at like sentiments of like a you and an I and things of that nature, is that we were leaning away from these totalitarian type policies. Come here, baby, come here. And because we're actually
Yeah.
leaning towards these particular policies, we
Mhm.
realize that they can be like so harmful, right? They actually are in the case, being against what not only people want, but also is against what people need in order for them to actually go forward. Most people don't necessarily have these particular sentiments that we did even 100 years ago, like knowledge, changing of societal roles, and changing of like what is even constituted as what we can do to even take care of ourselves is completely different. And so with that, it's also going to be a difference on how we even look at ourselves too. Yes, okay, I know. Okay, yeah. So, so it's a good thing that you see that, maybe regular group boots on the ground people are trying to say, I'm not really down for this like Christo fascist type, organization called the Moms for Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily going to support it. But unfortunately, there's still key people in key positions that are still pushing these really horrible policies. What say you, Maya?
It's all right. Well, Stephanie brought up Germany, so I'm going all in. When I see all this, it brings back so much of just everything from I. This is really how fascists operate, and I can think of all of the preachers that we've seen gay bashing and down with the gays, down with the trans, da 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 da, and then find out that they themselves are gay, or like to watch gay or trans you know the people do things on videos, or not sure what words I can use here, or they
Yeah.
themselves like to dress up as the opposite gender, at night. And we saw a preacher, sadly, in their life when that came out into the open about a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it always just it starts to look like this, where it's like, you can't do it, you can't do it, I know you want to do it, I know that you want to do it, and you can't. And so I'm going to harp on this relentlessly, so that I can justify my own existence. So part of that jumps out at me. But another thing that, just saddens me is, looking back at a lot of the precursors to World War II. And we in America, those of us who dare to pick up a book or are old enough to remember watching the book burnings, seeing the fires, watching with vigor as, the histories of so many people were erased with a flame. And to do the thing that Moms for Liberty is trying to do. And it is because of these things where they're trying to, like, like Steph said, they want a race, they want this blank slate so that they can rebuild up the history. And I was saying this to Stephanie last night of like, okay, last time they tried to erase the slate and say, no, this is going to be the history, like it ended in a civil war. You can't have this one homogenized history, and it's not even really history, it's this fictitious mythology of things that never occurred. And to think that this is going to make you a better country. And I'm not trying to I don't know, shit on Germany at all. They've done many things, many great things, but they're fighting again with fascism. And I think a lot of people right now, I've seen a lot of people praising these homogenized nations like it's something that should be lauded. And even with the teachings of, hey, these are bad things, never forget, da 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 da, we still see fascism rearing its head, even with the lessons. Germany purged a lot of beautiful people. They purged the LGBT, they purged their trans, they purged their Jews, they purged their elderly, they're sick, they're crippled, they're people of color. Germany is still a shell of what it used to be before Hitler came to power. And we really, really, really need to heed that warning. I think there's a lot that we can learn just from viewing what happens when you don't celebrate diversity and inclusion, and how important that it is to include all groups.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying, Maya, because Moms for Liberty has a Black person that is on the board. Yeah. Tia Best, she's the director of the national engagement, and and also you have
we had a Black president. I totally forgot.
But check this out. And they also have a Hispanic director of Hispanic outreach. Her name is Catalina Stubb. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's all types of diversity going on over there.
No, I don't even know why I'm here. We had a Black president. Like racism solved.
Racism solved. Misogyny is solved.
Everything is solved.
Everything is great. Okay, everybody. Okay, cue the music.
And Trump always has his one Black friend.
Black friend.
Now we're calling him Tim Scott.
No. No, I think that Tim Scott wants to be his friend, but that's another story. But go ahead, Stephanie.
I think the totalitarian impulse begins at home, and I think it begins with the desire to suppress a lot of these. A lot of perhaps questioning notions in the back of people's minds. I mean, I think of J. Edgar Hoover, who quite famously cross-dressed and was quite famously gay and quite famously went after everybody in their... everybody that was doing that or happened to have be richly endowed with melanin. I mean, the guy had issues. And part of that totalitarian impulse was perhaps, maybe on an individual level, to try to suppress that within himself and then expanding that to a broader societal context. So I think, the impulse to control is, it's good in some ways, but it can run rampant. It's like a cancer. When you take that impulse to control and impose it upon an entire society based on your own religious beliefs or what may have you, wherever that impulse came from. And I do think it has some origin in the philosophical notion of the world being fundamentally bad, fallen, corrupt, that it is irredeemably a world of sin. And the only hope for salvation is to follow the word of God to the new kingdom. So so you wind up having these movements that call upon secular nations to adopt religious codes, and I don't care whether the religious code is Sharia or canon law, it's still oppressive, and it still relies uh, on the privilege of one group over another. In this
Mhm.
case, on religious belief, and Sam Alito is quite literally spelled it out in a concurrence with not taking a case, denying cert for a case in the Supreme Court. But saying he would have granted cert had Missouri not screwed up. It was a case of a lesbian who had sued the Missouri Department of Corrections
Mhm.
for work discrimination. And Alito basically said, I knew this was going to come up. That what happened was their lawyer challenged two jurors who said that they viewed homosexuality as sinful and bad.
Mm.
So good lawyer says, "Hey, you can't be neutral in judging this case of discrimination because you basically are homophobic. You don't be on the jury." Alito would have set those two people on the jury and was begging in his opinion. He just sort of wrote a side note. I'm siding with the majority on this, denying cert, but bring another one quick.
It was a 5-page side note, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a 5-page side note. Yeah. I
And
think good. Go ahead, Elma.
also, the first time I heard about this Moms for Liberty, it was also they were mentioning here in the and Mexico, because they were saying stuff about the parental rights and how everybody is trampling on parental rights, and they care and everything, but I see them more than a group that is for profit,
Mhm.
because as we can see here in this, they get a lot of money just by spewing those ideas and saying, "Oh, but we are doing God's work, and we are doing what is right, and we are trying to protect children," which is not true, because I don't know. I think one of them, or the movement in itself, was trying to ban the mask mandate when there was a pandemic.
Mhm.
They were also trying to ban kids from learning medical words like spinal tap or something, because they say, "Oh, those words are too scary, so children should not learn how to spell those."
Mm. Did you
Yeah,
want to ask? I want to ask the producers. Can you like scroll down a little
Mhm.
bit? Maybe we can read a little bit more from that article.
Oh,
yeah, and
sure.
I just wanted to. Alma had mentioned, they're supposed to be doing this to protect the children, and I just want to remind everyone how many things are being done to quote unquote protect the children.
Mm.
Stephanie could go the rest of the stream just talking about all the things that are being levied against her on the for on the under the guise of protecting the children.
Right.
But I believe Cynthia could actually side with me in Black history, where we
Yep.
were constantly
Mhm.
um, told to literally get in the back of the bus to protect white women and white women virtue. We had
Mm-hmm.
whole towns burned down because a white woman screamed. We had little boys, and I'm not just talking about Emmett Till. He
Right.
wasn't the only little boy that was, unceremoniously shot in the middle of the night, for lack of better words. This actually did happen. 14-year-old 9-year-old boys, like most of them didn't get adulthood,
Mhm.
for leering at a white woman was actually on the books. It was a offense punishable by death, by hanging.
Mm.
There were people just gleefully on a Sunday going to a lynching. It was posted prominently in the paper
Mm.
for these people, for men
Yeah.
that were something, the virtue of a white woman. And so now I don't I don't want you to think that this is any different, because this is history repeating itself. The
Yeah.
women's lib movement has
Mhm.
done too much. We white women aren't being treated as children anymore. They are now focusing their efforts onto the actual children. We must protect our children. Um, and they're doing this, whether it's, keeping girls out of girls' bathrooms, or books out of, the hands of white children, or, whatever the thing is. I don't want this to be lost.
Right.
That when you
Yeah.
hear that we are trying to protect the children,
Hmm.
under the guise of protecting the children, are also killing white women. This whole abortion thing. Well, we have to protect
Oh
the
yeah.
unborn fetuses that can't speak for themselves, that can't be born, that have to be, that will die and take their mother down with them. But we have to protect them. We have to protect the children. I want you to understand the dog whistle that this is.
Yeah.
That protect the children means we must oppress you, and do not let them
Yeah.
get away with that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I just need to, again, soapbox shutting up. Let's read this article.
No problem. I'm yeah, all that in a bag of chips. I even want to just put on that before we just read the article is that, I've spoken to a few people of the race who are
Now, do you want me
also.
to put the other one?
You can put that one back. So I want to read through it, but I did want
Oh,
to,
okay.
just kind of
Okay.
just add like a little bit, a little something on top of, a little icing on Maya's cake. Um,
Mhm.
about how
Mhm.
I was speaking to a few people that I know that I've done like, activism work with over the years. And, I was telling them how we were going to be talking about Moms for Liberty and some of the, the policies that they stood for. And one of the people told me, well, they have more of an agenda against LGBTQ people, not necessarily black folk. So I really don't have a dog in that fight.
Oh
And I
my
said,
God.
oh gee, you really should have a dog in this fight. And I said, because not one, LGBTQ people are also people too, and they have human rights and they should be protected. Two,
Mhm.
some of the there are people within our particular group that are also LGBTQ as well. And three, these are also the same people who want to ban books that are written by African American people. They are also pushing other things that they say that should not be taught in school because they are afraid that their little white children would be concerned and be and feel guilty because of racism wrought by white supremacy in the past and presently. And I'm like, well, it's history. It should be taught. Like I was told that Black history should not be taught in school. That should be only taught by Black people because you're concerned about other people, like rewriting the narrative. And
Oh
I
my
said,
God.
well, well, the problem with that is that I don't necessarily have an issue teaching my child Black history, but other people should also learn Black history too. But the simple fact of the matter is that Black history is American history.
Yes.
It
Thank
happened
you.
here. It happened like right here. So why in the world will we ignore it? Especially if you have to bring up the dark past, as lift every voice and thing that our fathers have wrought. It's part of who we are as a society, and it's important for all of us to learn so we don't repeat the same mistakes going forward. But
But
so I'll get off of mine. But go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Like
Black
I just, when you talk to your friend, I just want you. I want you to remind them that
Mm,
when people thought that it wasn't important to stand for trans people because I'm not trans and I don't know any trans people and they're a real small group and cry away whatever.
mhm.
Um, Once they got the laws on the books for the children, they immediately started going after the adults. And
That's
then what
right.
did they start doing? They started trying to ban abortion, the distribution of abortion pills. Which is a federal thing. It can affect me and you. Like, it doesn't take much for them to get one thing on the book and for it to spill over to you.
Yeah.
And so what I say to everybody, like, no one gets left behind, and not in a George Bush way.
Mm.
It doing
I would
one
hope not.
thing will only embolden them to come after the next group, because we are all on the chopping block.
Yes, we are. And another thing is that this is also the same group that will have fringe people, but that's not so
Mhm.
fringe, that would say, "Oh, and you know another good thing that we should bring back? Slavery." I
Mhm.
mean,
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, and this,
It's in the wind,
yeah,
actually. I mean, it's
yeah,
rather crazy,
Mhm.
but yes, it's in when you have the Speaker of the House of Representatives refuse to comment
hmm,
on slavery as it's like, can you imagine? It's like, well, Congressman, how do you feel about slavery? The Congressman has no comment. Come on, dude.
Mike
Give me a
Johnson.
Oh
God,
yeah.
break.
Mike
I mean, just on,
Johnson.
but on the nature of history, right?
Mm.
Black history is American history. It started my sixth great grandfather was an original settler of Providence Plantations, now Providence Plantations in Rhode Island and Rhode Island. Settled in North Kingstown in 1638. You know, he died owning 4 black people in this in the 1600s. Of course, Black history is part of American history, as is Narragansett history,
Hmm.
the history of the Algonquin people, with whom my sixth great grandfather actually signed a treaty,
Mm.
as is the history of the Iroquois Confederation, from whom much of the language of the American Constitution was copied.
You know, Stephanie, I found
American
that
history is the
all of
history
that.
of my people, your people, Mexican people,
Yes.
from
Yeah,
whom
Hmm.
we took territory.
yeah.
Uh,
We
Exactly.
not
And
even
it's
we not even gonna talk
all
about we're not even gonna talk
history.
about where, remember the Alamo and what that fight was really
oh
about.
yeah.
Mhm.
We ain't even gonna talk about
Yeah,
that.
it was always so weird to me that some people were like, "Oh, remember the Alamo?" But they were, well, these people that I was talking, they ignored that the fight was because Santana abolished slavery, and that's why they were angry at them.
Thank you, Alma. Thank you. Let's read the article, shall we? So, Moms for Liberty reported 2.1 million, damn, in total revenue in 2022, more than 5 times what the conservative parental rights nonprofit made in its inaugural year in 2021. That just gets to show y'all people that bigotry is profitable.
Yes.
Mhm.
According to a tax filing provided to the Associated Press on Friday, the dramatic increase up from $370,000 in their inaugural year in revenue the previous year reveals the financial footprint of the polarizing group's massive nationwide growth, including high profile events over the past year with prominent conservative groups and Republican political candidates. Since its founding in 2021, Moms for Liberty has amassed vigorous support from some conservatives who support its efforts to target references to race and LGBTQ plus identity in schools across the country. At the same time, the group has generated forceful backlash from grassroots groups and anti hate organizations who argue its activism stirs extremist ideas and harms minority and LGBTQ plus students. Now, I think is so interesting. And then I'll just go ahead and read this quote and we're going to move on. Moms for Liberty spokesperson, I believe her name is Marley Kerr, said that the group's leap in revenue is proof of the generosity of those involved in fight to protect parental rights. The tax filing shows that most of the group's 2022 revenue, nearly $2.2 million of it, came from the contributions and grants. So foundations and government entities is funding this hate group. It
Oh yes.
earns smaller sums from educational activities, about $68,000, and merchandise sales of $96,000. Because ain't nothing say merchandise and this T-shirt that says "I'm a bigot, vote here" is a great thing. The tax
Yeah.
balance also shows the most of the group's 2022 revenue, nearly 2 million. Oh, I read that part already. While Moms for Liberty is a 501c3, no, C4, so it's a PAC nonprofit, and therefore is not required to disclose its donors. Documents and disclosures from other organizations reveal some of its 2022 funders as well-known right-wing groups and donors. This, guys, is a very dangerous group. It
Yeah.
is a dangerous
I'm sure.
group.
Yes.
I'm sure they get plenty from the Green family, the people, Hobby Lobby folks,
Oh gosh, yeah.
who run the Museum of the Bible. I'm sure they get plenty of money from Americans Defending Freedom. I'm sure they get some money from the Heritage Foundation.
Sure. Oh
They're
god.
part of the right-wing grift network
Yes.
that funds every little possible avenue to infect the body politic with the virus of fascism.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
who they are.
That's
And
yeah.
it's like I was saying earlier, it's very profitable to be one of the spokesperson of these people.
Yeah.
Like I was the other day I was looking for marketing campaigns, and the people who books the speaking engagements of Jordan Peterson and
Oh god.
what is
I'm sorry.
this other guy?
I had
Yeah,
a small convulsion when you said Jordan Peterson, but continue.
yeah.
Right.
Well, it says that just for booking them, and that I think that the cheapest and speaking engagements they have is $50,000.
I'm in the wrong business.
Grifting. It's lucrative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very lucrative.
No, hate grifting is extremely lucrative, obviously. I mean, can we even
Is
talk
there any
about
other kind though?
right? Yo, like I want to see if anybody can see if we can try to find an article about their conference that they had, I believe back in I think it was in 2023, their National Moms for Liberty conference. I'm going to see if I can look that up while we guys are talking. But I think it was also very interesting about the people who actually showed up to support the group and also use them as a platform to kind of push their rhetoric. One of the guys that actually showed up was the now superintendent of education in Oklahoma. Oh, what's that racist piece of crap name? Let's see. You guys know? Let me see. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick. So let's see.
No, Chaya Rychak.
Yeah, I know he's the one who appointed her, and I've been hearing his name all week, and it's bothering me that it's not coming to my mind right now.
Yeah. I'm going to find it in a minute because he's a piece of work in himself.
Is it Ryan Walters?
Ryan Walters. That's
the fella.
Yeah, that's the fellow right there.
Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's like the same one, and this is another thing that was very concerning about him and about some of the other people who were actually at this particular convention, that was basically saying that the whole establishment clause was not the proper interpretation of separation of church and state, even though the Thomas Jefferson, that piece of what, said it literally should be interpreted as a wall between church and state. Oh my goodness, why don't these people understand and learn their freaking constitution?
I think they took it out of school.
I had to
Yeah,
take my statistics class
homeschooling.
when I was
They
in
don't teach
school.
that on
That's
homeschooling.
true. That's true. Yeah, which is something else that they want to go ahead and just give a whole bunch of money to, and also privatized schooling, and also like the theocratical schooling. We're not even going to talk about. I forgot which state was it that was trying to give money to the Catholic Church for charter school, which is supposed to be a state funded school.
Yeah.
And I think that they ended up losing. They weren't able to get the funding after a fact, because you cannot fund religious schools with taxpayer money. That's directly in violation of the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment.
It is. The Supreme Court, I
I
remember,
found
did do
something
something
regarding.
to. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I found something regarding their. That you see who is there
Yeah,
regarding their conference.
yeah. It's just about every
Yeah,
horrible
National
person ever on
Summit.
earth.
Yep,
Yeah. Go ahead,
and
Alma.
it's you know a moms for fascism is there with the salute.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mr. DeSantis.
And
I
we
don't
also
even want
have
to.
this
Yeah, are we orange?
speaking Cheeto in there.
Yeah, yeah. The orange 99. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's one of the names that they were like just cheering because this guy is all for moms.
Yeah, of course. Who also got hit with a $180 million defamation case that also proved him guilty of SA towards the person that brought that civil suit against him.
Yeah,
So I'm for
I think you will
moms.
have send me this one.
Yeah,
This is kind of a good
yeah,
news.
yeah. Well, one of the things that is an after effect of hate is that it's very difficult to keep organizations together when all of you is in the guise of hate. Especially when we talked about Bridget Ziegler, and
Hmm.
even though they're like she's on the Sarasota County board, Florida school board, and definitely pushing these really horrible policies that's going into school in the school system down there. In is with her husband basically practicing her natural state of affection, right? But we still have to find a way to basically placate my own natural affection. And I would even conjecture that it's probably the natural affection of some of the other ones that happen to be on the board, be members
Hmm.
and things of that nature. And because like everybody is trying to, vie for power, yet, pushing hate, but we hate ourselves, so we're gonna even push it even more, it's tearing each other apart. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I
So
think it's
yeah.
very nice to see that they even hate each other, not only hate us.
Yeah, that's something. Like I even say in advocacy, you ain't gotta like me as long as we just stand for things,
Yeah.
the same things. But
Well, I mean, when your core principle is hating other people, I
that
mean,
part,
Hmm.
that part. So let's
it's hard to stay united. I'm just saying.
right, right. Well, let's read a little bit from the article over here on For Wire, because we read on this show, people. Moms for Liberty, the extremist parental rights group, was, I like how they put that in quotations, was supposed to help the Republican Party regain the White House. In July, former President Trump called the anti LGBTQ group, with 300 active chapters, damn, across the country, a grassroots juggernaut. They are credited with forcing schools to lift mask mandates, banning books featuring LGBTQ characters, and supporting anti trans laws and policies across the country. The group was on track to be instrumental to the GOP in the 2024 election, and also part of Project 2025. Y'all look that up. But
Mm.
over the course of the past 5 months, the group has begun to unravel. Yay! Okay. Experts have questioned the claims about the size of groups' membership and individual members have been exposed as sex offenders. Oh, damn. And acolytes of the Proud Boys. Oh, that's just a lovely moniker to hold. Then last month, Moms for Liberty co founder Bridget Ziegler admitted in a police interview to being in a relationship with her husband and another woman. The interview was conducted after the woman in question alleged that Ziegler's husband, a Florida GOP chair, Christian Ziegler, had done essay against her. Ziegler's husband had denied the allegations and refused to resign from his position as GOP chair, despite calls from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I know some people want to call him Ron DeSatan, but I don't even want to give him that name because to me that's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Mm. Then and other state Republicans to do so. Ziegler is also a member of the Sarasota County School Board and has been instrumental in ushering in Florida don't say gay bill, pushing a Christian agenda in public schools and banning the teaching of critical race theory, and on Tuesday night, the board voted 4-1. We talked about that before in non-binding resolution calling for her to resign, making a rapid fall from grace for Ziegler and potential fatal blow for Moms of Liberty. Let's go ahead and move on.
Just a second. Helen Green earlier in back and forth was saying that Ziegler still is on that school board you made reference
Oh,
to, just for FYI,
thank you. Yeah,
which is rather scary, but
it is. It is. Yeah, actually, she this is Helen's district. She talks about it. We talked about it a few times on the nonprofits
Hmm.
too. So in the Lehigh County, I believe that's definitely her. So she actually is in the fray. And and Helen always talks about like thank goodness her kids are like out of the school system now because like if they were still like young and in the school system in Sarasota County School Board, she would have hightailed out of there like with a quickness. And I'm not even mad at that because I would have did the same thing. Okay, moving on. The impact of the Ziegler scandal has been enormous on the Moms for Liberty structure. Liz, I'm going to really mess up this name. So we're just going to say Liz with an M, the founder of the activist group Stop Moms for Liberty, was closely tracks the group's activities, tells Wired. We see chapters moving away from or taking a break, chapters leadership questioning their roles and scrambling at the national level to save their mom's brand. The organization is trying to distance itself from the Zieglers, but this is impossible because the Zieglers are interwoven into the very fabric of Moms for Liberty. Okay. I think we can go ahead and stop right there. We can just talk like
Hmm.
a little bit more. So, guys, what is your take on this? Like, so, we know that Ziegler's after school life is a little bit of a little messy for Moms for Liberty. And also we even talked about earlier how I believe you said Lehigh County in Pennsylvania, Stephanie. Was that you that said that that people have just completely lost interest?
yeah,
Not
they could
necessarily
only
going
get
to
three
meetings.
people. That was one of the founding chapters, and apparently the remaining three got together and disbanded the entire thing, which is
Mm,
Oh,
mm.
good.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
for that. I'm for that. So what are your thoughts like everyone like when you hear something like that like we're actually seeing like an unraveling in their particular network. What do you think?
Even though I'm okay with them living their life as they see fit,
Mhm.
I think it's great that that sort of thing that shows how hypocritical they are and makes people just abandon them and just looking somewhere else because just seeing those kind of groups collapse on itself is like kind of satisfying for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel the same way. What say you, Stephanie?
Well, as I said earlier, when we sort of touched on this earlier out of another article, yeah, it's good. I mean, I think it's way better that you see the support for the group in a place like Pennsylvania just completely evaporating on account of whatever. Maybe people are fed up with it. Maybe the money ran out, or whatever. They weren't able to keep their social organization together and keep it going. But the case in Florida is, sure, they ousted the Zieglers, but the organization's still going on, and the and the reason that they ousted the Zieglers was not because of the Zieglers' fundamental hypocrisy, which we've all remarked upon, but because of their sinful nature. These are the things that we that are abhorrent. It literally fits in with their narrative that these are abhorrent things, and we can't have these sinful people involved with our group. Therefore, they're out on their keisters. But the group is still going along with the same kind of message, which is that people who engage in consensual but not necessarily conventional heterosexual interchanges in their private lives are fundamentally sinful and need to be out of public life. So there's a double. It's good that they're gone. Maybe. From somebody's point of view, but the problem is the other people are still there, and until the money runs out, they're always going to be there because they have that. It is a calling from the Lord above for these folks.
Hashata.
And it is not something that they're going to be easily dissuaded from, because they really, really, really believe what they've been taught all their lives and the sanctity of their mission to spread the good news of Jesus Christ in the form of hatred of anyone who does not accept exactly their interpretation of that gospel or evangel.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just thought it was just because they got caught. Maya?
Shorter, yes.
Yeah.
I hear you. I wanted to, when Steph was talking, it reminded me of a interview on the Majority Report. I believe they had the head of I forget the acronyms, but it's the head of the teachers union, and she was talking about Moms for Liberty and how just how much of a wrecking ball they've been, and how it's been just kind of this a lot of like nonsensical platitudes about, oh, well, we're ruining our children, and people are like, oh, I don't want to think about this, and what they're saying sounds right, so I'm just going to jump on this bandwagon. And I think the saddest part of that for me was how many congressmen jumped onto that bandwagon. And I was heartened to know that there was this really well-funded union going to different congressmen and saying, hey, no, there's not a bunch of white women en masse teaching white children that they're bad. Think that through, because that's what you're saying is happening.
That's just not happening. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they said that, that from the back, they've been able to kind of get Congress to, when I say Congress, and we're talking about like on the state level, because that's where most of this is going to be. Pretty much, I'd say 99% of it is where you're going to see it. Like,
politics is
they're
local,
working
right?
in school districts. Yes, politics is local. So I would like you guys to stop thinking about Sleepy Joe and crazy dad Trump, Grandpa Simpson Trump, and think down ballot. Because how do we get Mike Johnson? down ballot votes, when
Hello.
people, you know, couldn't get off the couch to hit the button for Hillary or Joe, other people were getting off the couch to vote in Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell and Crazy Marge in Georgia. Like, I just please
Can
let
I
that
just
sink in.
and also, I just want to add something to that, and then I'm going to go ahead and let you continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up.
Yeah, no,
But
but I
yeah,
just also just like to your point, Mike Johnson ran unopposed in most of the most of the races that he was in, including I believe for congressperson. Let that sink in.
yeah,
Okay,
seriously.
go ahead, continue.
Man, I could riff off that so hard. Anyways, um, there are a lot of people doing a lot of things behind the scenes. I don't want anybody to feel like you are hopeless and you just have to watch this in horror. There are so many different things that you can actively do to counter what's been going on. And the thing that we're seeing, in Pennsylvania, a lot of like the wind being taken out of the sails is because of this thing here, where there are people behind the scenes saying, no, we need to be pro children, not anti gay. We need to be, what are we going to give children, not what are we going to take away? Because what a lot of parents got turned off by was, oh, you're taking all the books out of the library. I don't like that. I do like Catcher in the Rye. I do like, is it All Quiet on the Western Front? These are things that marked my childhood, and you're taking those away from my children. So when we're talking about parental rights, a lot of what they're doing are counterintuitive to their narrative. And when people are saying that, they are becoming disengaged. Now, it's going to look different in every area. And also, yes, a lot of the damage has been done. And a lot of that, a lot of what the left does gets done, behind closed doors, behind the scenes. And so the narrative that prevails a lot of time is still this like right wing thing that like just keeps getting in the headlines. Why? Because that's what sells. Doesn't mean that nothing's being done. So there are a lot of, I don't want people to think that nothing's being done. There are, but yeah, a lot of the damage has been done too. But that's why it's so much more important to act. And the least, and I'm saying to you, and I've been saying it every stream that I've been on, the least you can do, the very least you can do is get off your couch, step into a voting booth and check a box. Maybe bring some friends.
And the thing, and the thing is that, what where the evangelicals, the good news people, the gospel people are at is spreading the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ and redemption for the world, this world of sin and the remaking of the world, etc. and so forth. We need to be evangelical ourselves. Mm-hmm. We need to be spreading the good news of secular humanism, the good news of democracy, the good news of freedom to be ourselves and tolerant of other people's views.
Hallelujah.
Exactly. We need to adopt that as something that we can do. Mm-hmm. You think that, do you honestly believe that Griswold v. Connecticut was a Supreme Court decision that came out of nowhere in 1965? No, it came out of the fact that women said, here's something we can do to change our lives and take responsibility for our own reproductive freedom. And that was only for married women, but you know what? That was one step. And it wasn't because people sat around. It wasn't because people were sitting around in 1955 or 6 or 4 that the Brown versus Board decision came down. It was because people were agitating for change. It was because Harry S. Truman integrated the armed forces, and that opened the gateway to people demanding equal protection under the law and their civil rights. It wasn't. Do you honestly believe that LGBTQ rights were as a result of people just sort of sitting around. No, Stonewall was a riot. The Compton cafeteria was a riot. It was people out there. And to me, what is happening now is the result of 50 years of complicity in sitting back and saying, well, we made it.
Yeah.
We made it. We made it through. We made it through. Now women can get credit. Oh my goodness, that happened when? 1974.
Right. Without their
1970
husband.
goddamn 4. I was
Yeah.
a fucking junior in college. And do you think that happened because people just sort of sat back? No, we've sat back long enough. And now we're reaping the whirlwind.
Yeah.
We need to embrace our innate capacity to do the same thing all over again. And we cannot stop bending the arc of justice, bending that bow, stringing that bow, and finding the arrows to make it possible to hit the target of justice and freedom for all.
I feel that Stephanie needs music playing behind her. Yes, I agree. And you pulled on my heartstrings with that one, but you made a good point. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being very serious. And also, shout out to Marsha P. Johnson, Stonewall. All right, shout out to Marsha P. Johnson. But guys, I forgot to actually mention this, and I know that we're kind of like in the rounding part of the show, but this channel is monetized now, people. So if you would be ever so kind to throw us a super chat, we will read respectable super chats on air. Okay, so go ahead. It's like as my friend Kelly would say. The lowest you can give is 99. So he said, "What the cluck is? It's only $1." So guys, so large, small, and in between. Every bit helps to continue to bring independent programming to your YouTube streams, where you can actually hear voices, diverse voices, being able to talk about very important things from a skeptical, non-religious point of view. So thank you for that. Now, guys, we should really talk about and Stephanie and Maya, you started on it, about where do we go from here? What's the call to action? I like doing these particular streams and shows when we're talking about very important topics, like organizations, Moms for Liberty, a bona fide and certified hate group that feigns like I'm just really tripping about how they put like one Black person and one Hispanic
Oh, yeah.
on their website just to say that, look, we're inclusive, but it's all a sham.
But can you show the picture that I have? Who is the?
Yeah, if you got yeah.
Who is their Black friend in there?
Oh, the lovely.
Ah,
Oh, and also a registered sex offender. How lovely. How absolutely lovely. I got to tell this quick anecdote, guys. I was talking to a person that I know, and we were discussing Christo fascist policy and Moms for Liberty. And one of the things that they said back to me was, I have no problem with the LGBTQ people. I don't have a problem with transgender people. I have a problem with people when they actually go after the children. Let that sink in.
Who is going after the children here?
Well, according to the person I was speaking to, it's LGBTQ people going after children.
No, it's really weird because I didn't understand what they meant by that either, but talking to them, they really think that, and like, and indoctrination doesn't mean brainwashing. I really need to bring that point home. But they use the word like it is, like, but it's, in teaching. Okay, we were all young and remember, how our abstinent only education may have been.
Yeah.
I
That
don't know.
never worked.
Right.
Not
But
even for the
it's the
Virgin
same
Mary.
mindset. If you
That
teach
part.
kids about sex,
Mhm.
they're going to want to have it. So, and it's the same thing. If you teach kids about being gay or being trans, they're going to want to have gay sex. So they're going to want to do the trans.
Yeah.
I think it's that same old school mindset that
Hmm.
where they don't understand how things work, aren't well read, and are regurgitating talking points from people who just want to keep them enslaved.
Hey, listen, there are ads going on, and I've seen a few on YouTube right now
Hmm.
where I forgot which group is behind it. I don't think it's the He Gets Us people, but it's one of those adjacent He Gets Us people who are
Mm,
running ads saying that there's a new threat in American society where people are looking at, trans people and thinking that being trans is cool. And,
good.
yeah, I'm like, are you?
What? Yeah.
I've lived through an age
Yeah.
where people just simply didn't give a rat's ass
Yeah.
to now. And uh, 20 26 years ago, this was not a big deal. This is a big deal now, simply because the issue has been drummed up. You can't have a conversation about bad breath without some idiot on the right going, well, what about the trans people?
Yeah.
You
They're
can't
going
have
after our children.
a conversation about getting a pedicure without winding up with somebody accusing you of being a pedo. No, I'm talking about my feet. It's gotten to the point where people are just absolutely obsessed
Yeah.
with this
Hmm.
stuff, and it's like it's a knee jerk reaction. It happened today. I was listening in a stream. Some guy, some dudes going. They were talking about internment camps and razor wire on the border, and somebody goes off on, well, you know, you know, you've got a lot of nerve asking me what's woke, talking about what's woke when you can't even tell me what a woman is. I mean, for Christ's sake. It's gotten to a level of absurdity that is crazy, and it's all about fear.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion, it's all
Hmm.
about reaching down into people's guts and drawing out fear,
Exactly.
drawing
Yeah.
out a fundamental worry and insecurity about, what if it's my
Yes.
kid?
Exactly.
Is
What
there
if
any
it's my
way?
kid?
I
What
remember
if it's me?
when.
What if it's where does this go? And
Yeah.
the thing is when people talk about what about the children, I want you to think about the children who are trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about them?
Children like I was as a child.
Not
I
able
mean,
to get gender affirming
ways
care.
to there are ways to come to understand
Hmm.
it's not a function of grooming. It's not a function of this sort of thing, of that sort of thing. It's not a function of some outside agency is going to trans you, or you're going to catch the gay from somewhere, or you're gonna all of a sudden catch some other thing. It's not a disease. It's a condition of being human.
Gay is not a
Hmm.
cold, people. Yes, that is correct.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, the two biggest threats to kids are shooting and clergy. Guns and God and guns are antithetical to protecting kids. You are absolutely right, Ember. And
Hmm.
that's usually the argument that I got. Matter of fact, to your point, Stephanie, I told the person who said this to me, I said, that is absolutely not happening. You have en masse LGBTQ membership coming after children to groom them and indoctrinate them into being gay or trans or what have you. I said, if anything, the issue that we're having, and we can actually trace back specifically to the Catholic Church to the 1600s about children being, as assault against them, by priest. And priest is
Mhm.
Yeah.
being moved around from parish to parish,
Hmm.
even though that the people who are ahead of them know what they have done to children. Okay, and it's not. And I understand. I said no, it's not just the Catholic Church. We have instances of this happening in the Mormon Church, happening with Jehovah Witnesses,
Jehovah's.
happening in the Southern Baptist Convention, happening in non-denominational churches. Matter of fact, I know that last year there was another guy who was I forgot that guy's name, but him and a couple other pastors was ahead of a sex trafficking ring when they were
Hmm.
sex trafficking young black women in their churches and passing them around to each other and also passing them on the street so that they can go ahead and make money off of them. So don't tell me about LGBTQ people doing this in mass issue just because you don't like drag time story hour to saying that they're grooming children when that's not happening. And also to set the record straight, when you also have these same people that saying things like, oh, well, they're using their platforms and their agendas to push, sexual reassignment surgery on children. Can I tell you the statistics of children having sexual reassignment surgeries? You want to know?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Love that.
0.
Zero.
Yeah.
And
Zero.
there's that.
Yeah. And every time somebody points that out, you're like, oh, no, no, no. It's just that they're trying to brainwash their kids and make them whatever they want to make them.
Oh, at least
And
there's
that's
pivot.
not how it
I always
works.
hear, well, I saw a video where insert dumbass allegation here.
Yes, I like yes.
Yeah.
What sources are they using?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
What sources are they
Or
using other than Jim Bob
either
told me?
Right.
they point out of the people, oh, it's just that this other guy did it and they regret it now. Well,
Oh,
a lot
that
of people
guy.
do things and regrets it, and
I mean,
that's why we
yeah,
have
let's
like
just get rid of all
Listen,
tattoos for
let me,
yeah,
everybody.
right.
yeah,
Listen,
Here's the
back in
thing.
the
tattoos,
80s, can I just
marriage,
back in the 80s, I regretted getting a Jerry curl. Okay.
Same.
And I'm right. But it was all the rage, and especially since this guy had one. Okay. This guy had it. And I
Right.
was still a huge fan of that guy. And he had a Jerry curl. So goddamn it, I need to have one too. And I regretted that shit.
You know, I don't know if I've lost my thread here.
I'm sorry. I threw in a
It's
Jerry
alright,
curl
it's
and I
alright.
just completely messed up.
No, I love it. I love it. And
No, no,
you
no.
don't have to make
I'm,
light of it,
it's
but like if you don't laugh, you'll cry. There's gotta
oh,
be.
True that.
Mhm.
yeah. It's again. It's what I was speaking about earlier with regard to the uh, you were speaking about the people in churches who are doing these things, and it's repressed sexuality. It's the God is pressing you down, and rather than reconciling your own issues, you're pushing it on other people. You're externalizing it
Right.
because the command that you are fundamentally evil and sinful and wrong and God will punish you has to be you're gonna do it anyway, apparently, because you are. I mean, it's kind of a twisted it's twisted sexuality.
Yes.
It's twisted by in my opinion, it's twisted by the nature of belief.
Yeah.
That anything outside of what is written in
your
that
opinion,
book
but I mean, Stephanie,
is
your opinion has been corroborated by multiple sources. And can we
right.
please, real
Oh,
quick, Well, I'm
I
sorry.
find one last
Yeah, go
point.
ahead.
It is not going to matter to these to the people that say, I believe, that
Hmm.
gender reconstructive surgery is being performed on people below the age of minority. It is not going to change their opinion. It is not going to change their opinion if you cite study after study after
Right.
study, organization after organization after organization who have developed best practices over the course of the past 100 years with
Mhm.
regarding as regards LGBTQ people.
Hmm.
It's not going to change their opinion. The clinical study, peer-reviewed research, it's not going to change their opinion. The only thing that I don't think anything will. The only thing that we have at our disposal is to make sure that opinion doesn't become law.
No,
That's what we need to
yeah,
be. That's where we need to be concentrating our efforts.
exactly.
Talking to the guy who's the chair of the Oklahoma School Board
Mhm.
isn't going to do anything. Getting him off the effing school board
Oh
is.
yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Like, listen, like one of the things that I said on a nonprofits episode last year was, if you are able to vote in the United States, and especially if you are a resident of the district of Mike Johnson, you should totally be concerned about the second in line to president, having midnight discussions with invisible sky daddies. And I want to give a quick shout out to John. Could you please, producer, put up his quote? Just let your soul glow, please. I need to see that. Yes, feeling oh so silky smooth. Just let it shine through. But check this out, y'all. You are absolutely right, Stephanie, when it comes to these particular, sensibilities that actually a minority of people hold not to become law. And you have to do that by making sure that the people who hold that sensibility are not in office so they can make that law, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like, to your point, like Maya, when you mentioned Mike Johnson earlier, saying that I have no comment on slavery, this is the person who testified at the congressional level when Sheila Jackson reintroduced HR 40 about how, slavery was a long time ago. We really shouldn't actually address this anymore. And my black son does not need reparations. And you know what? Another thing that your son don't need, Mike Johnson, for both of you all to have an app on your phone to give each other accountability of who's watching porn on your freaking phone. That's real,
Mm.
people. That's real. You know another thing that your daughter don't need, Mike Johnson, is for you to go to freaking purity balls while you all are giving each other abstinent only rings. You don't need that, okay? And so when we are looking at specifically organizations like Moms for Liberty, because even though that they may be falling apart, they're not done yet. And they
Yeah.
have still people who are either running for office or in office that is regurgitating their rhetoric. They are cool with book bannings, which is like a semblance of Nazi Germany. Come on, people. They are
Mhm.
cool with you saying that, don't stop woke, which I always say is definitely anti-black and anti-LGBTQ. That's what, when you say stop woke, that's what you're really saying. Because
Yes.
every anti-woke bill, especially that has come out in Florida, and copycat bills that have come out in other red states, are always about the same thing. We're going to ban African American history. We're going to ban books that talk about the LGBTQ experience. We're going to stop gender affirming care, and we're going to push trigger laws in order to roll back time when it comes to bodily autonomy decisions that people with uteruses are supposed to make with their healthcare providers. Okay, and we're
Mhm.
even seeing the backlash of that right now. I don't know if you all are aware of the young lady that was in Mississippi who was 13 years old who was assaulted by a stranger in the backyard of her house while
Yes.
she was making a TikTok video.
Yes.
And 9 months later, this person who's not even in the eighth grade yet got a baby that she got to raise because the state has laws on the books that prevented her from actually being able to have an abortion. And the nearest place that she could have actually gotten an abortion was Chicago, a
Yeah.
9-hour trip that her mother could not afford. Okay.
And I think that's the main issue, that they, I think they know, or that's my thinking, that they know that even they put those crazy laws on the books,
Yep.
those laws are never going to apply to them. Because what's going to happen with them when one of their kids has to, or
They
goes
don't
to
think that far.
through something, they
Yeah.
just have the money to just go to Chicago, pay for a hotel, stay there.
No, they're going to be coming to you pretty
and-
soon.
Right,
Because
right.
what they're fighting for is to get it banned in all 50 states.
Yeah, we're fighting for
Yeah.
they're fighting for it to be a ban on all 50 states. You know, matter of fact, you have like the congressional Congress that is right now that's controlled by a sliver of a majority with Republicans that
Oh,
are
yeah.
trying to push for a nationwide ban on abortion. And here's the thing, if it's a nationwide ban on abortion, it's going to be a nationwide ban on something else. And it's always going, and these particular things are never about helping people. They're always about instilling fear and control.
Control.
Yes,
Control.
fear and
It's about control. It's about control, period. It's not about anything else.
Yeah, it's
It's
about
about
control.
controlling. And again, you're thinking that they think that they will ever have to have these things. No.
Right.
Abortions are for drunken sluts. Those are the only girls that get knocked up without their, and need abortions. And and they need to be put back into place.
Yeah.
Or forced to have the baby and give it up for adoption and never see the child again because she just needs to sit there and feel punished. There's just so many crazy things
And we're
that
even
they
seeing,
think about all this stuff, and
and we're
none
even
of them
seeing
apply
that
to them.
done and see and to the point and to your point, we even have an example about what happened in Texas with a woman who was actually a doctor who wanted to have her child, but her kid was dead.
Yeah.
The baby was
Yeah.
dead
Right.
inside of her womb.
And
She-
killing her, actively killing her.
She had to go to New Mexico, I believe, to get the abortion. It's insane.
Yeah, it said a neighboring state. I didn't follow up on that because I
Yeah.
know when things aren't my business and I don't need to look into them. But not anything against you, Cynthia. Like, talking
Right.
about
No,
Texas.
right. About
Um,
Texas, yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, more importantly, what the Attorney General said, Ken Paxton, you can't let any of them go because it'll embolden them to, want
Go for more?
people. Yeah. We can't allow any woman to live because it'll, remind other women that, who Jesus wants to die, that they should live also. I didn't understand the point of that, especially when you have the same state saying a year earlier that, we'll definitely make allowances for rape and instances where the mother's life is at stake. They lied so that they could get reelected to keep power. And then they reneged on their promises. And
Exactly.
I am really concerned that Texas is so gerrymandered that it's not going to matter. Like they can just keep doing this because the people that they can rely on to vote for them don't look at these news stories. They don't get spoon fed them from Breitbart, OAN, or Fox News. They don't know. They honestly don't know that happened. And
one thing I want to point out, being terrifically old, is when I was speaking, this is a comment that came up in the chat, when I was speaking about the movement towards social justice in the United States throughout the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, I think people need to be aware that social justice movement was happening with a war that this nation was engaged in Southeast Asia going on the entire time. We could do two things at once then. we could be standing in opposition to our nation's oppression of the Vietnamese people, and stand in a position of fighting for our own rights, because liberty in Southeast Asia and liberty in the United States were intrinsically linked. And many of the leaders of the civil rights movement made that point quite dramatically at the time. So when we talk about Palestine being an obstacle, it absolutely is, because that's horrible injustice that's going on there toward the Palestinian people. We do need to be vocal about it.
Yes,
but
we
we
do.
also have to recognize at the moment, and in this moment, as we sit, that instead of it being Johnson carrying on a war in Vietnam and Nixon, who was going to end the war in Vietnam, bullshit. Yeah, instead of those being the alternatives right now, we have Biden, who is, in my view, only lukewarmly being supportive of protecting women's rights and LGBTQ rights. I think that there's a lot more that the administration could be doing in that regard, and certainly could be doing an awful lot more as regards the Palestinian people. But in opposition, it's not Nixon.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
literally people who want to end democracy in the United States. And we are on that knife's edge that, Nixon was a bastard, but these people are far, far worse.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to get that one out of there.
No, I'm glad.
Also on the notion of bodily autonomy, the Supreme Court decision in Alabama is directly aimed at birth control. Directly.
100%.
If you are going to call a blastocyst a child, then anything that is done to deprive that blastocyst of nutrition is akin to starving a child. What does hormonal birth control do? What do intrauterine devices do? Mm-hmm. They make it impossible for the blastocyst to implant. So obviously, you're starving the kid within your own womb. There's a through line here that is, that's inexorable. It's not going to stop with IVF. It's going to go to birth control. It's going to go to controlling every aspect of reproduction and reproductive freedom, family planning, and women's health.
Right.
That's where it's going to wind up.
Right.
Yeah, and I know it's you're talking about the Alabama Supreme Court, but speaking of Supreme Court, I do, and voting, I do. It's time for us to become one issue voters, if that were a thing. And I'm not talking about like just abortion, but like judges. Here's what happens if Trump gets back on. Yeah, sure, we keep all three of ours, but Thomas and either Kennedy or Alito, I can't remember who, are the next two oldest. The next two oldest step down. Right. And we get another Kavanaugh, we get another Amy Coney Barrett, and we solidify the current hill we're in for the next 2 to 4 decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, minimum 2. Next 20, like we're fighting this Supreme Court for the next 20 years at minimum. I want you to think about this. We really, this is the year that we really need to be judge focused.
I think that
it can get worse.
I think that, what we can definitely push for is that maybe hopefully Thomas takes John Oliver up on his offer.
That would be 30 days.
That would be amazing if he did. But folks, listen, we can go on, but like we are coming towards the end of our stream here, and I got a cranky kid that wants to go outside at 5 o'clock in the evening, but that's neither here nor there. Guys, first off, I want to thank everybody that has also been hosting, Stephanie, Alma, and Maya. Thank you guys so much for being on another episode of Women Atheists Unload. We have unloaded, guys, on Moms for Liberty and all fascism that is in the media today. So, if you all take nothing from this, know, especially if you are here in the United States of America, sorry, Alma, that we have some work to do coming up in November. But as Maya said, please also look at that down ballot. You know, when you go to the polls, just let your soul glow. Listen, we want to thank our patrons. Like, we want to thank our patrons also for definitely helping us with keeping the lights on. We want to thank you, Eric Azoles, Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman. The Bible says, what? Also, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Colson, Phil Calderon, Amanda McLeod, and Logan Fisher. Guys, and we also have other things that happen on Women Atheist on the Skeptic Haven chapter, right? Well, actually, we have, like, you know, other things that happen on Women Atheists Unload, and we also have other shows that's on this channel. So it will be really good for you not only to like this video, but to subscribe and hit that ding-a-ling bell so that you can always get a notification every time the Skeptic Haven has a show coming out, like on this Sunday. On Let's Talk at 7 p.m. Central, we have the president and founder of Black Nonbelievers and my girl, Mandisa Thomas and Jay. And the topic is going to be on Black History Month. Also, Tuesday on Secular Soap Bix, we have guest John the Skeptic, who will join us to discuss discrimination as an atheist. On Thursday, we're going to have Stacy and Dee's birthday stream with a lineup of many guests, so you don't want to miss it. And then, of course, next Saturday we're going to have another Women Atheists Unload, and we'll have a show called Move Over Margaret Atwood with Helen Green, Stephanie, also to my to my, is this my left? Yeah, my left, right, something like that. Yeah, you over here, Stephanie. And also Alma, who's that way. There you go.
There I am.
There you are. So, guys, make sure you all tune in. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you all next time. Oh, before we do that, everybody on here, except for me right now, kinda, has shit to shill. So, Maya, shill real quick.
Yeah, okay, so I did this today. She's
Yeah.
up there tomorrow. Bad Science Sunday. We're going to be telling you about some really bad science with Christian Flair. So for those of you who love that, you know, come on over. Be at Maya at Maya Atkinson. Sunday 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So adjust for your time zone as appropriate.
Nice. And Alma, if you would love to shill your shit, please.
Well, I am mostly on the Spanish show, Nuestra Experiencia Atea. We are trying to, disseminate this information in Spanish for all the Latin American people, either in our countries like Mexico, Latin America, or even in the US. So if you speak Spanish, please go to Nuestra Experiencia Atea. We are right there.
Thank you, Alma. And then Stephanie, if you would please shill your shit.
I will happily show my sheet. I have a little channel. It's at Stefficath. It's labor of love in some respects anyway. I am unpredictable in terms of when I'll show up on stream. And what I'll be talking about, I'll probably be doing some sale making streams during the week, just sort of out in the shop sewing stuff and putting stuff together. I do have one request, and that is I did a stream about Judge Alito's side note on his on the thing I mentioned about the Supreme Court stuff, and apparently it has attracted the right wing in a big way. It's this video now currently, I just checked, currently has 920 views on a channel. My sub count is at the moment 262 or something like that, right? And it's just blowing up, and the right wing is over there disliking the thing, which I don't mind. It's engagement and all of that stuff, good for the channel and all of this. But if you would just go over and like that video, I'd really appreciate it, because it's bumming me out. It just keeps ballooning. It's, I don't know, some right winger picked it up and it hit the algorithm, and therefore there are just tons and tons of people over there.
Yeah.
The comments haven't been all that weird, but if you would just go over, check that video out, like it, maybe leave a comment, maybe watch it. It's not very long. It's like, I had one of the nasty grams was, I had to watch this at double speed, and I said, oh, then it took you 9 minutes to get through. Thank you for watching. But, you know, it's like, up yours. Anyway, there's that. But that's my little corner of the interwebs. And sometimes I take the activist point of view and push. Sometimes I talk about sailing and sailmaking, and sometimes I talk about sports, and sometimes I you never know what you get with me.
Oh, that's what's up. And I will also say this for all of us little lefties around here. Sometimes right wing engagement will blow you up. I had a short, guys, on, I forgot what specifically was about, from the nonprofits, and that thing was like, had over 2,300 views. And I had a bunch of right wing people, trying to tell me about, who I am and what I believed in and all this other stuff. But one more thing, guys, I just want to say,
real quick,
yeah,
Stephanie, the reason you have so many views is because of those thumbs down. It's engagement, and you know how the algorithm hates hate stuff because I don't know, like. People love to hate stuff, so it is getting you.
I don't mind.
In the
it's
algorithm
fine.
more.
Right.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, holy shit. But the audience, I'm trying to reach there is not necessarily the right wingers. I'm trying to reach other people, and I'm sure it will be reaching other people. That's not a problem. But still, it's just, Jesus Christ, it's pretty weird.
Real quick,
and, my most watched video was also a short, and it was me tipping over a J24 to clean the bottom. That got like 2,000 views almost instantly, but this is up to nearly 1,000 in 15 hours.
My goodness,
all a bunch of idiots.
Hey, it's engagement. And I know that we was like, this is like our stream. I call sometimes Women Atheists Unload the Baptist stream, because we have at least about 5 closes before we actually get off. But real quick, also, guys, I wanted to tell you about, also, we're going to have a special episode of In the Cut on the Black Non-Believers channel. And it's going to be myself and President and Founder Black Non-Believers, Mandisa Thomas, talking about referendum on reparations. It's going to be this Thursday, February 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, because we're not in, we haven't leaped forward yet. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another Women Atheists Unload. Cue the music. See you next time.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until